All right, I believe we're live today. So today we're going to discuss a little bit about veterans and Section 8 housing. Now, many of you already know about HUD Vash, and many of you have your opinion about HUD Vash dealing with veterans. So we'll let you guys know a lot of things have changed. This administration and the White House and Mr. Trump has made some very clear promises in regard to you veterans, especially those of you that are in the Los Angeles area, which account for nearly 60% of all homeless veterans. But before we get started, I want to do a few introductions. My name is Jay. I am the owner of Section8Consulting.com. We work with clients all around the nation and in many other nations where people have dual citizenship to help them achieve their abilities and goals towards home ownership, receiving vouchers, and dealing with complicated matters relating to landlords, housing authorities, and other investigations through federal agencies like OIG and HUD. Now, beyond that, I want to discuss first what the White House has said. And for those of you that require some proof, I'm going to link you directly up to the White House and the article that went out. It appears May 9th. So we're about 9 days late, but that's not surprising considering my schedule half the time. So this will be President Trump's promise to those of you veterans. So you can read along with us there. Now, the allocation this year is a rather large one for you veterans, and I want to make very clear there is a distinction between those that are homeless and those that are not. This year, HUD and veterans programs will include the housing choice voucher. This is not about just things like supportive housing, permanent supportive housing, rapid rehousing, all that stuff, and it's continuum of care. In fact, I believe fundamentally that will likely be going away, a big portion of continuum of care and those other solutions that are HAP measures. So any solution that we're discussing today regarding the White House, and again, you can look in the live chat and go ahead and click on the link directly to the White House. The president is going on to entitle this, Keeping Promises to Veterans and Establishing a National Center for Warrior Independence. It's a rather lengthy order, and it's an executive order, and it is being rolled out. And the approximate budget is $3.2 billion, which is very, very significant. That's the highest budget I've ever seen in regards to veterans. Now, again, there is an emphasis on the Los Angeles area, clearly, because there's so many homeless. But I want to make, again, very clear, we are discussing housing choice vouchers. We're not talking about half measures and bed tickets at a shelter and living in some funky hotel with a bunch of prostitutes, okay? Let's be upfront. Let's all be very honest and keep it very candid. Veterans have been given a lot of half measures over the years, and we all know what that turns out to be, a bunch of bullshit. You know, everybody likes to take credit for all the money spent, and then what usually veterans get is less than desirable. I can take you to a veterans property in my own city, Houston, Texas, and it will remind you of a project with drug dealers, okay? Nobody's looking for this kind of solution. So again, we're discussing $3.5 billion in terms of getting housing choice voucher, where you can live where you want to, not be indentured to a caseworker and living in a broom closet in some shaky or shady building, okay? Second to that, I want to go over some fundamentals real quick so you understand your funding and levels. And we'll talk about applications as well. It's the meat of the situation. But I find that to be informed from the start is very helpful, okay? So preventative services, they're going to allocate $8.25 million, which is around 26% is dedicated to preventing homeless veterans circumstances. So that's of no benefit really to anybody. It sounds to me like $1 billion mistake because nobody chooses to be homeless. So I find that rather absurd, but okay. Transitional housing, they're going to spend $603 million, a very small budget, and that's for temporary housing for veterans. Let me make clear that it's not a permanent solution. When we're talking about temporary, that means you've got a crisis now, and if we can't get you a housing choice voucher now or very close to now, then they may offer to put you up at a hotel in between trying to get you to where you need to go with a housing choice voucher, okay? That's a intermediate measure that's not taking with normal people that apply. Anybody that's a non-veteran, you're not going to get that option, okay? And the last time we seen something similar that rolled out was going to be during the pandemic, 2019 through roughly 2022, okay? Looks like they're going to give 1.1 billion on permanent housing supportive services. These are wraparound resources. That doesn't go anything into actually housing you guys. And then, of course, there's other things like treatment, employment, and administrative costs, which is only 1%. And then SSBF, and then of course they're going to allocate only 1 billion to the HUD Vash program. So the real goal here, for the most of the money, is going to be the housing choice voucher. So in terms of looking at that, where does that kind of put you veterans out there that are in the tip? That means you'd have the ability to go by your Veterans Association or Veterans Hospital or your housing authority, and you would be given highly preferential treatment. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to talk to you well or be nice or pleasant people. That's not what housing authorities do. In fact, they're quite the opposite. It just means that you would have a higher preference and you would be considered above and beyond all others on a list, okay? Simply because housing authorities will likely be paid a lot more to process you than they would be the ordinary person. That is the long and ugly of all things. But veterans will be considered first again. Now, implementation of this is going to roll out 2026. We're only going to see a sampling of this in 2025, so don't think you're going to jump out there just yet. For those of you that don't want to deal directly with the people at the Veterans Association or the Housing Authority, we offer casework, okay? It's not free, but obviously it's a much better methodology going that direction than possibly dealing with somebody that's going to offset your mental health or physical health issues. And to be honest, just because this funding's there does not mean that housing authority employees or people at the VA aren't going to talk to you badly, treat you like a trick on Third Street. That's the reality is very real with a Section 8 and housing and vouchers. Many of these organizations treat people pretty badly. What I am saying is if we can if we can hold on to our faculties long enough to deal with the nonsense and get through it, then you'll reach your goal of having a house choice voucher, get you into housing. And I don't mean project based. I mean, get you a voucher to get you in a real place to live. And then that be, your circumstance going on. And veterans that are disabled, especially, and senior veterans as well, and ordinary veterans as well. Okay. So we start to see partial implementation through 2025 and then maximizing on 2026. And keep in mind, this the White House and Mr. Trump, they're going to continue to make adjustments, large ones and small ones, all the way through the 4 years. And so what we see roll out for 2026, they get bigger, smaller, change, or many things could happen. And so this is what we're looking at now. But as the White House has announced on their own website, this is his promise of keeping promises to veterans and establishing a national center for warrior independence. And, establishing a national center for warrior independence is a lot about what they're going to be doing towards LA. Many of you won't have a direct effect on a facility, but you will have the ability to expedite your ability to get a housing choice voucher above and beyond all, with the exception of seniors with disabilities that are also veterans, okay? So, again, you can go directly through the VA, Veterans Hospital, or the Housing Authority if you're not amenable to that because of the way these people may treat you or other issues, or you feel that you're going to be taken advantage of. You might want to reach out to our office. Again, the services I offer are not free, but they certainly are more expedited, and you'll be treated with a much different level of dignity and respect. But I don't want to dissuade you in any way from receiving anything in the United States government, the White House, or President, Congress, or any other federal fund that offers free services. But we all see what happens when you get something free. It's usually not worth the time. All right, so beyond that, I want to say this. For those of you that have served our country, current or in the past, whether it's World War II on up, I know my grandfather and our family has been through. We're a military family, though I've not served myself. I want to thank all of you for your service. I especially want to give a special attention to Los Angeles and all the veterans there. We may finally see some resolution and mass, okay, en mass, which means there is going to be a heavy attention played out for veterans, especially those living in tents on the sidewalk, for real solutions, because the president's idea here is if our current military is going to defend the border and prevent immigration related issues, then those veterans and those in the past, whichever veterans, should be best served by receiving services first. Okay. So I would almost say it's a veterans first program as the way that it looks, but he didn't specifically name it that way. So there's a lot of encouragement there. Joseph R., good work, California, Bay Area, Oakland. I lived for a bit in San Francisco in my early years, and I was actually, that was about 30 years ago, I was homeless. And I remember there was two big shelters out there, and I used to go and get in line with everybody else wrapped around the block. I wasn't in Oakland, but I was in San Fran, and I can't remember the neighborhood, but it was a pretty tough one. It was a long time ago. But many people ask me, well, Jay, how have you been in this for so long, and how do you know it so well? Well, beyond just professionally, I lived and breathed it at one point, and I know. I walked 10 miles in the same shoe as many of you that are likely on Skid Row and Oakland and San Francisco and New York and many places. This is not a surprise to me. I'm not just some uppity person. That came from the Upper East End. I actually was out there myself, and instead of picking up a beer and a crack pipe, I decided to utilize my time in the legal law library. The most dangerous person in terms of programs, the one that you first offend and make them feel vulnerable and victimized. But once you anger a victim so long, they turn around and they become determined. Why? Because they're pissed off. And so I always warn, you run the risk of turning a victim into somebody angry, then they're not going to stop at any resolve until they get what they want. I have preached for years that you guys need to escalate your view and your emotions and your feelings and the way that you've been treated by this old world and these programs, and go from a victim to flat out pissed off. That way you're a man on a mission. You're a woman on a mission, because there's no reason why you could walk in, sign up, and could potentially lose your life fighting a war or defending this country, but yet be relegated to the sidewalk like a piece of fucking trash. Okay? When we're spending more money filling potholes than we are our veterans, is an absolute insult on people's intelligence. It's the most dismaying thing. So I'm glad that is being addressed at the highest level this term. Okay. I also want to make clear that I am not here to make politics. I don't care if it's going to be Biden or Trump or anybody else. I've never voted for anybody, including the lunch lady. Reason is it's conflict of interest for the work that I do. And I serve both parties, all parties, including independents, and I have no opinion. Though sometimes I'm a little bit excited on either side of the line or party line when things go very, very well in terms of veterans and seniors and disabled. So in other news, I want to tell you this. 2026 is going to be a big change for many. They're presenting a new plan across the board. Now, this is more for those that are non-veterans, but they're looking at term limits. If you have the ability, you're not disabled, you're not a senior, and you're not a veteran, then there's a high likelihood if they pass this through the Congress and House, you will have a 2-year limit on getting a voucher, using it, and then that be the end of it, okay, for however long they set it for. Now, while this may only be present and useful during Trump's term, and it may get reversed or changed to something else later, we all know every president wants to do his own thing. Some do and some reverse, But for the time being, if they pass that next year, then anybody that does not have at least one senior in their home, one disabled person, or a United States veteran, then likely signing up for a voucher would be equivalent to only being able to use it for 2 years and you turn it back in. Okay. Second to that, they did make a lot of cuts, but it's not cuts to vouchers. It's cuts to overall fluff programs. We have block parties and other things and information and educational crap that does not actually put vouchers in people's hands. Roughly of $72 billion that was being spent in prior years and smaller amounts, over half that money was spent lining the pockets of housing authorities for nonsense shit. It means it did not in any way benefit anybody to receive a voucher. It is the intent of this current administration to chop all the programs. Chop them, chop, gone. So what we will see is money being spent for the most part towards directly on vouchers and housing, specifically housing authorities will probably be left with an operable budget of 1%. So I expect a absolute failure of many housing authorities around America. Probably 30% of them are going to fail because their business model won't work with this. You're not going to be able to spend $3,000 on leather sofa and pop champagne every week. The game is over. And to be honest with you, if this administration decides to jettison housing authorities altogether and let it be ran by the feds, that would be very pleasing. At least these people would have a college education, and we're not hiring people that are moonlighting as a prostitute to be a caseworker. Okay, I think everybody's had enough of shit and being talked to like a tramp at the housing authority. Many housing authorities are hiring people that are ridiculous. You know, they're at noon, you drive through McDonald's and the little girl's handing you a cheeseburger, and now you're your caseworker. This is an absolute insult on people's intelligence. Dealing with housing authorities that don't even know their own policies and procedures, they could not recognize a federal law related to Title 24, even if you print it out, put it on their desk, except for the higher ups. So do we have a fundamental break here, where we're running a profitable money machine, but we're acting in the most depraved ways in terms of treating people with dignity and respect to these housing authorities. I want to make clear not every housing authority operates that way. Many do have people that give a shit and are highly educated, but more of them are not that way. Thus, while we've had to create a much larger HUD with so many employees to investigate things like insolvency, theft, selling voucher, workers going on their lunch break and selling vouchers directly out their desks, stuff like that. There were at least, I covered 12 cases where housing authorities stole every copper penny in the building. They didn't get caught because we can't create a HUD big enough to cover all the fraud. 12 different housing authorities were stormed by the feds and people arrested, stealing, thievery, all kinds of crazy shit going on. And this is just on top of already the insult on intelligence. So the Wild West is drying up. Many of you may refer to it as draining the swamp. Well, I'd say it'd be draining it and then lighting a match and then burning the gas out as well. You know, I could have told you after 80 years running this program, looking at it, we need devastating changes at this point in order to correct all this. I hope that whoever comes in next picks up the baton, and we continue to consider new solutions. HUD is like the post office. It doesn't work. It never did work. And now it's gotten so bad that housing authorities are operating like a mafia, their own little countries. And a lot of these housing authorities aren't getting caught because there simply is not enough investigative power left to catch them until they literally have created $3 to $5 million fraud, and all the money is going in. At that point, the party's up. And so, you know, we need serious consequences. And so if you are worried at a housing authority and you're committing fraud and you're doing other things that violate people's federal rights, you should expect a plane ride to CCOT right there in another country. It would please me no more than to see you go and be put away, and that be the end of you. We don't have time to sit there and victimize people that are already a victim. Is the most absurd thing that I've ever seen. And so we're crossing the smorgasbord of things that should be addressed. There's one person I know that don't fuck around, and that's Trump. Okay, I don't like everything he does. You know, the same thing with all presidents. I don't like everything every president does, but some of it I find quite quaint. And if we have to fire half of everybody and terminate every housing authority in America and turn it over to the feds, then let that be so, because anybody could do a better job than what I'm seeing play out across America. It's nothing but games. With trimming all that fun and failure of housing authorities means that we'll have most of the money, vast majority of the money will be strictly on giving people vouchers, which in turns means these damn waiting lists that are 15 and 30 years long will suddenly start to decrease by 60, 70%. That's what you're going to start to see. You know, we cut all the fat. And all these people that are not 62 and older, that are not in a wheelchair, that are not veterans, well, time to pop the party balloon. You're going to have to get a job at the dollar store, because sitting on Section 8 for 38 years and then and then handing it down like it's an asset to your children, that bullshit's fixing to come to an end next year if they get it passed. And though I am for helping people that need it that are low income, I am not for generational vouchers where people are inheriting it generation after generation and people just sitting on their ass just for no good reason. I'm a great support of anybody that actually needs this for realistic reasons. What I'm not in support of is tying up the whole fucking system with lazy people. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that people lazy just because they're low income, but you see my point. We got to get rid of some people. If you're not willing to participate in society, then this isn't the country to live in. We need everybody up and working unless you are a senior, a veteran that, is clearly retired and you have that right and benefits or disabled. If you're low income, then we need to look at educational solutions and other things, get you up and going. But we cannot afford as a nation to continue to run on a full welfare system. The cheese line is over. Okay. So I'm on the fence on this because I want very much to help people achieve their goals and to see a better life, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not in my office, nor I or anybody that I use in my staff are going to support defrauding the federal system. Not now, not ever. Simply because one lacks the will or ability to go on with their life. Okay. So I think that we're kind of best served. I am concerned that this could be taken to an extreme that even I wouldn't want or appreciate, but that's at the prerogative of the White House. I'm not the president. Let that man do what he needs to do, and the next man will do the same, or woman. All right, so moving on from there, Joseph Barr goes on to say, yeah, they're sweeping Oakland homeless now. They offer no shelter, got a orange tag on a vehicle to move. Again, I want to let you know, guys, everything we're discussing now is not immediately effective, okay? So if you're still being harassed, you still can't get shit, it's because this is the discussion that just happened 9 days ago. So there's not going to be people doing prayer circles and then buses driving by handing out sandwiches, shoes, and a gold bar. It's government. This is going to take a while for them to roll it out because you know how that goes. You've got to get a pry bar to get every fucking dollar out of the government. So it'll be a build up slowly going up, kind of going up the hill to get it. So I don't want you to run out there and think that your life's been solved. We're getting closer to it as we get to the end of the year. So fair and reasonable expectation. Freaking out tent. I like that name, though I don't hope you're not freaking out in that tent. What age do you consider a senior? Well, it's not what I consider, but it's what the federal government considers a senior. In many circumstances, it may start at 55 and above and 62 and above. It depends because we still don't have a lot of clarity just yet under federal rules what will be considered a senior. In fact, they're changing all that again in terms of receiving disability and Social Security and so on. But I am trying to keep a watchful eye and see what's changing, what's not. And I also want to make another curious announcement. I got my first white hair in my eyebrows. Now, I have tried to dye my hair jet black. I've done everything I can to keep the gray and white out, and I'm losing this battle. So why am I bringing that up? Well, it just seemed like something fun to talk about. All right, Max Law. Thank you. Well stated. I appreciate your support in what I said there. So if you're a veteran, guys, look, you can reach out to the national hotlines and the VA and administration and so on, the typical channels. If that works out to be a bunch of nonsense and you're not really getting anywhere, then I would recommend reaching out to me. Though I'm not I always suggest that people try their best remedies first. And if your solutions don't get you where you need to go, then maybe it's time to throw in a towel and reach out to a consultant that's been doing this a long time. Otherwise, I would say try all available measures that are available to you through government, county, and state. And if you still not yield a result, then you can reach out to my office. My name is Jay, and this video is in regards to Section 8 housing for veterans, seniors, and disabled, and also low income. And as a last announcement, my name is Jay, and I am the owner of Section8Consulting.com. If you need to figure out where we're going, now, I put some additional information there, and I'm going to post one more thing. This is a statement from the White House regarding veterans and housing. That way, you guys can use that link in this live chat and see it for yourself, and then be very careful about Google and the news. They say a lot of things. They say things that are shocking, and they do that for a reason. It doesn't necessarily mean it's true. I find the news to be the truth, but never the whole truth. And half the time, it's barely the truth. So if you're going to get information, make sure you get it directly from the White House, Congress, the House, or another federal agency. Do not use Google, Yahoo, MSN, and AI. They will embed shit in order to get you to read things, okay? And so it's important you get it directly from the source. That's why I provide now in every video, we source everything. And mostly you're going to see the dictation directly from the White House, directly from Congress or congressional budgets by the top officials. It ain't going to be from lollipop.com. You got a lot of people out here that are not real consultants making videos right now, and they're quoting verbatim shit that was written by an AI. Okay, it's a dangerous game to play when you start messing with people's housing. Well, guys, I've enjoyed talking with you. I'm going to be back Sunday, and we're going to talk about seniors and solutions. When I say solutions, I mean housing, vouchers, and other issues related. We're going to explore what it means to be a senior, 55 and above, dealing with housing choice voucher, emergency housing voucher, Section 202, Section 811, and many others under Title 24, and then see what would be a possible solution for your situation. I hope I haven't talked too quick. If you do have a question, I am still here. Go ahead and let me know what you'd like to ask. If not, then you'll have to catch me on the next video. By the way, the next video will be Sunday, either at 10 a.m. Central Standard Texas time, or it will be, I got to remember, the camera's over here, not over there. I'm sorry, guys. So 10 a.m. Central Standard Sunday, or depending on how I'm feeling, maybe 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. So those 2 times you'll catch me, and that will be on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. And I have posted that in the description as well. All right, guys, I've enjoyed it. Y'all have a wonderful day. And I do not see the question. Well, Howard Knorr goes on to say, if homeless, is COC still available? COC at present is not available. The funding was cut for that about a month ago. All right, I've enjoyed talking with y'all. Have a great day.